I mean, my first reaction was that it was absolutely incredible, extremely lucky on the part of the girls that they were able to survive for the 10 years. I think it's actually 10 plus years that they were able to survive. And I think that having 3 girls disappear in close proximity to each other during the same time frames, and then these 3 girls survive after all these years, I think is phenomenal. And I think what that does, I think that gives hope to other people who have similar circumstances, other missing people, where they don't just assume that these people are probably dead. You know, there's a possibility that maybe they're not dead. Maybe they're being kept just like this situation. You know, you hate to think that they're under that type of duress, but I think that's probably better than the alternative.
Yeah. What do you say to families about hope and about giving up hope and keeping hope? I know these are probably discussions you've had
Right.
many times over your career.
I think when you have something like a cold case unit, I think the concept is nationwide is you never give up. You never give up hope. And you know, and as I've said before, not just for the sake of hope, but real hope, the real possibility that maybe we can get out there and we could figure out what's happened to your loved one, and we can bring some closure and some justice to the families. And that's something that cold case units strive to do all over the country.
Wow. And it's kind of a message to victims too, I guess, if you're being held.
I think so. I think the message is just don't give up. You know, never give up on that end as well. We're not giving up looking for you on this end, and don't give up hoping to be found on that end. How that circumstances happened, how the 3 girls were kept like that without being able to get away, I guess we'll know about that down the road. But it's a very unique case. You don't hear about this very often, but I'm glad it ended the way it did.
Yeah. What does that make you think in terms of some of the unsolved, you know, high-profile cases here, like Tabitha Tudor's, like Holly Bobo, like the Wix case?
I think you have to look at it as the possibility is out there, that maybe the same set of circumstances exist with all of those people, and maybe that's what's going on, versus the fact that, well, they've probably been kidnapped and they've probably been killed. I think you have to look at the possibility, because this is not one case. There's been several cases over the last several years where people have kept the victims prisoners in their homes. In some cases had children with them, in some cases had them for many years. So, I mean, just by that alone, I think not giving up hope that we may find them alive, I think that certainly does that.
Wow, and this long time period too. I mean, 10 years, that's a long time.
Right, I think one of the cases was actually closer to 12 years. So the fact that these girls were able to stay there undetected, and apparently they were kept as prisoners inside the home. Apparently they were tied up whenever he was not around, and how they could survive for that length of time and no one even noticed anything unusual going on at the house. I think that's unbelievable, actually.
Wow, and I guess it speaks to neighbors and friends as well. Kind of, you know, keep your eyes peeled. I mean, this is unusual that somebody could hold you prisoner in a home in a residential neighborhood.
Well, I think as time goes on, you're going to find out through that investigation that there were some things that popped up that seemed suspicious at the time, and maybe the people thought they were insignificant, and maybe they didn't report them, maybe they did report it, and maybe it wasn't followed up on. I don't want to second guess anybody, but I do think that when people see things that they think is unusual, maybe they don't feel right contacting the police. But I think in hindsight, they're going to be able to look back at this particular case, and there were some red flags probably. And there's probably going to be a lot of people who would feel like, well, maybe I should have called the police. So anytime you see something that's unusual or something that doesn't look right, you don't lose anything by calling the police and at least making them aware of it.
Yeah. Any of these unsolved cases that still kind of bother you or haunt you or that you think about? Or
Unsolved cases?
Yeah.
All of them, yeah. I mean, any unsolved case that we have, of course, the cold case unit has somewhere in the range of 500 unsolved cases. You know, there's some that are more in my mind than others, but I think all of the unsolved cases bother any detective that works in these cases for so many years and become involved with the families like we do. Because, you know, they become advocates for victims' rights, and we are constantly inspired by their stories. So that's what we strive to do, bring the family closure.
Okay. All right, I think that's good. Unless there's anything else you want to add that you think is important in this.
No, I don't know. Susan, I mean, I don't know, I think,
And obviously you weren't in Ohio during this, but you've seen cases after years of waiting. I mean, the relief from the investigators that have put in so much time, knowing that this case is closed and everybody's fine. And also you've seen the family members that have put so much time and effort
right.
searching. I mean, the investigators here in Ohio and the families, you can relate to the
What they feel.
Yeah, to relate to them in terms of finding out the unbelievable, and that is the children are alive. I mean, that must have been absolutely incredible, because I feel like all the families probably felt like their children were probably dead. They just hadn't located their bodies. We just had a case last week that ended in a first-degree murder conviction, where the family waited from 1979 until present. And the family was eternally grateful that the case was finally brought to trial, and they were able to get a first-degree murder conviction on it. So that's a lot. I mean, for family to go through all them years not knowing who killed their loved one or who kidnapped their loved one, it's incredible that they endure that, and many of them do it with a lot of grace and dignity. And I don't know how they do it. I'm not sure I could do it. But we see these stories over and over again.